Okay, we are recording. So today we are here for one of our guest mentor workshops, and we are joined by Katie Collins, who no doubt you see somewhere on your screen right now. And if, by the way, you can use that view. I'm sure everybody knows this, but you can toggle so you can see everybody's faces or not just the person who's talking. So choose what works for you. So today the topic is sales, and I brought Katie in specifically for this because although I love sales and I teach pieces of it, I don't have all the skill set in this. And one of the things that commonly comes up in our community is just a general um, dislike of sales, like not a deep love for. And depending on where you sit in that, like that spectrum of like love it and hate it, um, you're somewhere in a range, right? And my goal with this session is really to help empower all of us, myself included, to make sure that we're really showing up confidently in the sales part of our business, because all of us have to do it, whether we're working one-on-one or whether we're selling a product or service or whether it's virtual or in person. There is some component of sales that we are all responsible for as business owners. And so the intention is to really empower all of us to be more confident in how we're showing up in our sales. And Katie's going to help us do that with Become a Sales Rockstar. So, Katie, before we kick this off, will you just say like a few words, maybe introduce yourself, although I'm sure you've got some of that in your presentation, but tell us a little about you.
Yeah, I can go off script. Yeah, so I've been a coach for the last decade. And when I first entered the world, and I'll tell you a little bit more of my story in a minute, but I kept repeating the same phrase over and over, which was, I don't know crap about sales and marketing. So I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but what I found was it was like a safety blanket for me. Because if I said that, I didn't have to show up visibly, right? I didn't have to like really market myself, or I didn't have to be that pushy salesperson or any sort of salesperson. And because of that, I just was so broke for so long. I had invested 25K in my coaching certification, and I had earned 2,500 2 years later. And so I just knew there had to be another way. So fast forward, I learned a new approach. I'll tell you about it in a minute. And then I ended up becoming a sales manager for this coaching company and helped bring in over $4 million in sales for them. And since then, I've been hired by other 6 and 7 figure business owners to lead their sales teams or have sales conversations for their launches or that kind of thing. So I have my own business, but I've always kind of had this side hustle of doing sales for others because it just keeps my skills kind of on point. I have tons of conversations with people, and I really believe that this conversation can be transformational for people, whether they say yes or no. And so I love having these conversations. So that's just a little bit
Perfect.
of who I am.
Yeah, that's great. And then Katie, tell us, where do you live?
I am in Denver, Colorado. I was
Okay.
telling Hillary, like right now it's like sunny and nice, but we're looking at like this snowmageddon thing that's coming, like 30 inches of snow this weekend. So I've got my spring flowers behind me,
Yeah.
like it's coming. It's coming.
Yes, and then you can go ahead and get out your snowshoes or your a snowboard and go have some fun this weekend.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Katie, and let you take over the screen and kind of run from here. And
Yeah.
for everybody who's here, we are going to have some time at the end for Q&A. So if you have questions, certainly you can pop stuff in the chat, and I'll be kind of monitoring that while Katie's off and running. But anything that's on your mind, we'll make sure we can answer that before we get off the conversation today.
All right. Awesome. So this always puts me in full screen mode and then I can't see you guys. So I know there's a way to prevent that, but I don't know.
Well, I can
Anyway,
see everything, and I'll
okay.
holler at you if something comes up. Does
Okay. Yeah. If you're like waving my way, I can't see you.
that work?
Um, all right. So if you are feeling frustrated about hearing no, or you're just so dang scared of having the conversation because you think you're going to hear no, then you're in the right place. And it's all about how to become a sales superstar. I hope you like my Bitmoji because you're going to see her make special appearances today. So just to give you, a little bit more of a background, I came from being an educator. I was a teacher for 17 years. And I was looking for plan B because I was so tired of not I would identify myself as an under earner. So, oh, it's so hard because I can't see people nodding, but I'm assuming you're nodding if you know what I mean. Teachers aren't like the best paying job in this country. And I'm single, unmarried, no kids, and I was like, I cannot do this for 30 years and just never make enough money to like enjoy my life. So I was very driven by money when I transitioned careers. And I know for some people, like, heart-centered people, they want to make an impact. And of course, that was always at the center of what I do. Like my last job, I taught refugee adults how to read. Like I've always been the person that made an impact. I just wanted to like balance that with why can't I be wealthy doing it? So that I think that like story is what turned me into the sales coach that I became. It was like this just understanding that like I get to direct my life. I get to pick if I don't know crap about sales and marketing, I get to go learn it. I get to teach myself new things. I'm a very bright woman, so are all of you. And we can learn these things and we can make them our own. And I think I was so afraid of losing myself, like I was going to be that. I know Hillary always talks about like the car salesman that we all make fun of. We didn't want to be that. But there's so many times when I was doing some mindset work around sales for myself, it was, what's something that I bought that I love? And that sales experience, and again, I'm thinking of my car. I bought this luxury car once I had doubled my teacher salary. I was like, okay, time to step it up and get a car that has a working air conditioner and that kind of thing. And I bought a pretty luxury car, and it had, leather seats, and, it was like this light tan color, which only non-moms can have, in my opinion. And and that whole experience going with that salesperson was beautiful. I was so excited about it. So we always hold on to stories that are like kind of the norm, and the norm is to hate salespeople. But in reality, you've probably bought things along the way or somebody helped you come to that decision. Like, girlfriend, you do need those new shoes. They look hot. Every time you wear them, you're going to feel so powerful and amazing. And then you bought them and you're like, I can't believe I just spent X number of $100 on boots, but damn, they look good. Right. So there's these opportunities for us to embrace sales and understand that we can really help people say yes to themselves, sometimes for the first time in their life. That is a very empowering place to be. So we just want to remove the, oh, I'm taking money from someone, and really understand that we are helping them get to a transformation. James Wedmore says it's the transformation happens at the transaction. It's when they say yes to themselves and they pay. It's huge. It's amazing. So so anyway, I was a sales manager for that company for a little while, probably 2.5 years. And the universe had the proverbial like hit Katie in the back of the head with a 2x4. I had to quit. I was sexually harassed by a team member, and he did not get fired. And just the whole way they handled it, they fell from my graces, and I was like, if all I stand for is empowering women, I have to feel 100% empowered where I am and who I work with and who I represent. And so I left quickly, and that was scary. I wasn't planning on that. I was making really good money working for them. But I just knew that it was the universe saying, Katie, it's your turn. Like, go make yourself millions of dollars, right? Instead of earning $100 per whatever I was selling for them. So my primary niche is working with coaches, online experts, and course creators. And it's really helping you develop an offer that's actually going to sell. And now I also work in an agency with some other partners, and we help people actually launch their stuff. So if you've got a fear of sales, if you've been resisting sales in any way, then you're honestly resisting the very medicine that you need to have your business be more impactful and more profitable. And so if you think of it this way, it's like sticking a nail in a car tire and then getting frustrated because you can't go anywhere because of it. Right? So really, and I say this a couple times, the first close you have to make is to close yourself. That was one of the best sales, quotes or whatever. I actually keep a quote like paper on my wall when I read something and I'm like, yes, I want to remember that. That's so true. If you have any doubt about yourself, your service, your price, or your buyers, you're not going to sell it. So we have to be so aligned with what you're putting out there and who you're talking to and how much value you bring to the table. And you'll find that your resistance to sales goes away. So that's one of the first keys. So the biggest reason that you're not selling more is you and whatever beliefs that you have that might be keeping you stuck. So you just need to learn, like I was saying, it's just a skill set you might not have learned yet or perfected yet, but it's learning how to sell with heart in it, with excitement and with integrity. Right? I know that everybody here, those words matter to you. You're not here to lie or mislead or, put fake testimonials out there. And there are people doing that online every day, right? And so we can like focus on those people or just be like, like I wouldn't circle up with those people anyway. I wouldn't have sat with them at the lunch table. Like those are not my people. I'm not going to learn from people like that. I'm not going to do that. But you can still make good money selling your service as long as your heart, your excitement, and your integrity is in it. So a lot of women have these thoughts that you see here on the screen when they picture themselves in sales. Like, what if I think I'm being pushy? What if they pick up on my needy energy? If you kind of need to make the sale to make something financially happen, right? Or you might be saying, I hate when people sell to me. How can I possibly sell to others? And then, of course, the most common one, I don't want to be salesy or sleazy or whatever, or out of integrity. But when you stay stuck in this level of thinking, so just like I stayed stuck in the I don't know crap about sales and marketing for too long, when you stay stuck in the level of thinking of saying these things, you're always going to be stuck with a hobby instead of a professional business that actually makes you money. And so now is the time to decide that you're going to be able to and willing to overcome this fear of sales because it's time for you to earn more income. And one of the things I love to say is, okay, what are you going to do with your extra money? Like, I love being able to donate money or just contribute to causes that matter to me, or even helping somebody out, providing a scholarship or something. So one of my things I have hanging in my office says, good people who make good money do good in the world, right? It's like, I love that idea. And so I had to overcome my fear of sales to get myself there. So women in particular struggle at sales for a few other reasons. Now, I'm not saying this is universally true for every woman, but this is what I've seen in my decade of work as a coach. So first, women are nurturers naturally. So we've been told that being pushy or bossy is inappropriate. And business and sales specifically is traditionally a man's game. And we believe we have to act like one in order to be successful. Right. So the nurturers are saying, I understand, when we're on the phone with our ideal client and they're telling us about their struggles, we respond with, I understand, I get it. Oh, that must be so hard. And then there's like this tension. And because we're nurturers, we want to release the tension. And so we're like, here's a quick fix. Here's something that will make you feel better right now. And what happens is when we do that, we're taking ourselves and that potential client out of the tension, which makes us feel better in the moment. But when a potential client feels better on a sales call, they don't buy anything. They don't feel the strength of the pain anymore because we just made them feel better. So we've got to get the nurture stuff out. Okay. Talking about pushy. So what if you changed the phrase pushy to mean something else? I like to call it taking a stand. So, what if you decided that you were going to be the person that would call your ideal clients out on their BS? And I mean blind spots, right? And what if you decided to be the person that takes a stand for what else is possible, even if they can't see it or believe it yet? Because think about it, if they're looking to hire you in some capacity, they're looking to you to be a leader. And when you're afraid to go, look, let me show you the mirror. This is what's going on with you. And if you keep acting this way, you're not going to get any further in your business than where you are right now. In fact, if you don't change anything, it's going to get worse. I know that sometimes that like pain talk, that's like marketing speak, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go down that road. But I'm saying like it's actually true. So I'm not saying like, oh, things are going to get so detrimental, you might die. Like, I'm not saying anything like that. But just like, as human beings, we have to grow. And if you're not willing to look at this look at this part of your personality, or the way you're showing up in business, if you're not willing to look at that blind spot and own it, you're not going to be able to grow beyond where you are. Does that make sense? Right? So I'm not even talking about selling. I'm just talking about taking a stand for them if they're doing or saying something that is in their way. But I think sometimes we get afraid to say it because we think they're going to come, oh, she's so pushy, or she, made me feel bad. And then finally, the act like a man. If you act like a man, it's the fastest way to exhaustion, burnout, and being out of alignment with your own intuition and your core energy. We as women are wired differently. Don't forget that. And not only don't forget it, but realize it's our gift. It's truly our gift. And so we can do business in a different way. And I'm going to get into that in the next slide. So, just kind of busting some of those beliefs. Like if you're feeling like, being pushy and bossy is inappropriate, or I've got to act like a man, or, I've got to continue my nurturing, right? So, first of all, it's okay to not be a nurturer at times. Like, I'm a very kind person. I'm fully like, I taught level 0 English to refugee adults. I was nurturing all day long. And it was something I had to really overcome. Actually, it was one of, I did some breakthrough coaching with a mentor, and then you walk away with a name, and my name was Sexy Powerful Bitch. And it was because I had to learn to stop coddling everybody. He wanted me to like really find that part of me that could show up like unapologetically sexy, be as powerful a woman as I can possibly be, and yet have this strong boundary where I will not allow bullshit into my world. And I was not her when I was on that stage. And I really learned how to step into that. So tough love and honest, bold truth and really powerful boundaries are how people respect you. This is where we get mixed up. We don't realize that, but it is true. You have to be a leader on these sales calls. Redefine for yourself what it means to be pushy and bossy. Does it mean if you're being pushy, are you pushing their limits? Is that maybe a good thing, right? Are you being a leader on the call? Like that's how you impact change. And so if people show up on the call, and sometimes it happened to me when I was younger, it doesn't happen so much anymore, but people would steamroll me on the call. They would just like overpower my questions with their own, or they would like take over and talk to me for 8 minutes straight without letting me get a word in edgewise. And I finally realized it was because I wasn't showing up as the leader on the call. And so now I start my calls with, here's how this call is going to go. I'm going to ask you X, Y, Z. Then I'm going to invite you to tell me A, B, C. And at the end, if I feel like we're a good fit, I'll let you know what that looks like. How does that sound? Right? And I'm just establishing my leadership right then and there. And then finally, with regards to the masculine and the feminine model. So you think about men, and of course I'm stereotyping, but it's like puffing out their chest and, I'm the best and I've got my trophies on my desk and, number one in this, that, and the other. So I just want you to understand that you don't have to always act like a man to be successful. And I'm not saying don't ever act like a man at all, right? But what comes natural to men doesn't work for most women. And so it's not that the masculine model is flawed. In fact, we need to blend both the masculine and that feminine, like that yin and yang, to be really successful at business and sales. but just understanding that there's a place for the masculine way of doing business, which is comparative. Look at me, and all my accomplishments, right? It's sort of this admiration mixed with this no like trust factor. Like, it works. Look at me, look at all my accomplishments, trust me, like it works. Right? The feminine way of doing business, though, is just a little different. We are a little bit more connective. So we like to connect with our ideal clients, and we, may get a little vulnerable and share a little bit more about our story, right? And if our audience is also women, they appreciate that. They appreciate the vulnerability and integrity in the story. And of course, we always say, like, you can be vulnerable, but you don't need to tell them everything, right? But as women, we tend to collaborate more. We're not in this competitive mode, right? It's like Hilary and me, like Hilary inviting me here, right? It's a collaboration. And it wasn't like this, oh, is there competition in some way? So really the healthiest and most attractive, specimen of any species has both masculine and feminine qualities. And it's the combination, along with solid, like, cognitive reasoning, is what allows you to show up as both graceful and soft and powerful and strong, right? That sexy, powerful bitch. So you've got to have both. All right. So just in sales in general, we're always going to hear objections, right? It's very infrequent, although I wish that weren't true. It's very infrequent that somebody's like, yeah, I'm in, sign me up. Right now, I find that a lot of people, they're simply asking questions. It's not even an objection. They're just wanting more information. And so I really loved this quote: an objection is not a rejection. It's simply a request for more information. Because if they were truly a no, they would say it. No, thanks. This isn't the right fit. Trust me, I've heard that a million times. So we've got 3 reasons why people don't buy, and I'm going to tell them to you, and then I'm going to break them down in the further slides here. So first, they aren't interested in what you're offering for whatever reason. If that's the case, we don't even know how they found you. We'll talk about that. Number 2, they can't afford it. That's why they don't buy. They can't afford it, or they don't yet see the value for the price you've set. Or number 3, it's a trust factor. They aren't sure it's going to work for them, right? And now it either means they don't trust you enough, or they might not trust themselves enough. So I'm going to break those down in a minute, but I just want you to remember, when you take a stand for what you believe in, when you see what's possible for your potential client, then it's time for you to be that leader and really say so. So this is really where you're shifting your mindset around what it means if you try to overcome objections. Because a lot of people think, oh, if I try to overcome them, they're going to get angry or upset by it. It's just a conversation. You have to keep reminding yourself, all we're doing is having a simple conversation right now. And it's like, sometimes it can be a little bit of a debate. I believe this, you believe that. And can you have that conversation with respect and love in your heart? Yes. Right. So like I said earlier, with the BS being blind spots, they sometimes cannot see what we can see so clearly, right? You can't see the frame if you're in the picture, I think is how the saying goes. And so it's like, they're looking to us to be that. And if you're too afraid, then you're missing a really great chance to make a huge transformation in someone's life. So how to overcome objections with alignment and in an empowered way. And I use those words where I want you to feel aligned and empowered, and I want your buyer to feel aligned and empowered. I am so firm about that, that I've never, knock on wood, I've never had a refund request in my life, because I make sure they're so clear and a yes and ready when I sign them up. I don't rush the sale, because I want them to feel empowered when they're saying yes. So first, I want you to understand the principles. Kind of like the first one I had said was, the first close you have to make is to close yourself. This is very similar. The only price objection is that of the seller. You have to believe in the value that you provide and the results that you can help create. So if there's any like eek around that, you've got to fix that. Um, Objections really help you just deepen the conversation. You don't ever want to give up at the first sign of no. It's just that you're listening to what's on their mind, right? The only time I recommend coaching on a call is during objections. So if you are a coach in any way, I never coach and put a band-aid on their problem because I don't want to break that tension. Plus, I don't necessarily believe I can make a huge impact in a single hour of my time because everything that I do with people, it takes time. It's like project based and, creating things. And so I can tell them what to do, but that's not as helpful as helping someone do it. Right. So I'm not coaching at all unless I get to, the conversation of no, and we're going to get into each objection in a minute. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to say. But I'll then coach them around, and I always ask permission. So I do always say, since I am in the coaching world, I know not all of you are coaches, but I'll say something like, since we're in a conversation where I may become your coach, would it be okay if I coach you a little bit right here and right now based on what I'm seeing? And they're usually thrilled for that opportunity. They're looking for any sort of guidance or coaching. And then I will help them see that their way of thinking or being that's happening right here in this conversation is the very thing that's holding them back from what they really want. And I go into a little bit around like who you're being right now isn't the person that's in your vision that's going to get you further than where you are, right? Everything that I was able to create in this moment is because of who I've been like in the past and who I'm being today. But if I want to create something different, I need to step up in a bigger way and do things differently so that I can create different results. And so I just talk about how you have to become a different version of yourselves in order to grow. And that's ultimately what I'm talking to them about, business growth. Okay, so if they are not interested, so I said there are 3 reasons they don't buy: they're not interested, they can't afford it, or they don't trust you. So this is the first. If they're not interested, then you just want to reassess with yourself, how did you get this far in the conversation? um, and you can ask, were there any red flags or signs of disinterest? That like it was there a lean out? Okay, so we're on Zoom and you can see me lean out, and I do most of my calls on Zoom now anyway, but when I was still in the world of using a template, I like to use the phone because I didn't want them to see that I was using a template. But energetically, I could still feel someone lean out if I said something that may have triggered them in some way. So if you detected that, then the question is, did you address it adequately? I always recommend if that happens, you've got to put aside your template and speak to what just happened. And so I'll just call it out. I'll be like, I can feel this like energetic shift that happened. I have a feeling I triggered you in some way. Tell me what just came up for you if if you're willing. Again, this is being a leader on the call. This is letting them know I am not afraid of difficult conversations. I'm not afraid of, calling out what I see because I'm here to help you. And if I'm too afraid to have these difficult conversations or admit that I might have been wrong in some way, or maybe what I said wasn't received the right way, I'm not a very powerful coach, right? And so it's always important if you detect a lean out, that you've got to address it sooner than later. If you don't, they will definitely not buy. So just know that. And then one thing that I do just to eliminate tire kickers from booking calls with me is I do add an application to that free consultation funnel. And that just weeds out the non-committers. I even have a question in there about like, are you willing to invest in your business? Do you have the funds to invest right now? So I'm just getting really clear. Like I'm not hundreds of dollars, I'm thousands, tens of thousands sometimes, depending on what they're buying. And so I just don't want to take an hour out of my time to talk to someone that's clearly not a good fit, right? So we just want to try to eliminate that so that you're never getting to this place of them not being interested. Because if you're here, something went wrong, right? Your marketing attracted in the wrong person, or like what happened there. So the most important thing is not to try to make them interested. If they're not interested, they're not interested. But the most important thing here is, how did they get into my funnel and what do I need to fix so that doesn't keep happening? All right. So if they say they can't afford it, first, you want to make sure that money is the real issue. A lot of times, people use money as an excuse or a smokescreen for something else that's going on. And usually it's fear, right? If you think about it, whatever you're selling, change and transformation, it's actually quite scary. If you've done any work with Tony Robbins and the essential human needs, he talks about how, people that are sick, for example, they are getting their need for love and connection met by the people who love them and take care of them because they're sick. And there's this subconscious thing going on inside of them that may sabotage wanting to get better because they're getting this beautiful human need met around love and connection. And so just to think about, like, there's subconscious scripts happening all the time, and understand that change and transformation of anything is really scary for, like, how will my friends receive me? How will my family receive me? Will they support me? It's very scary. And so we just kind of say, oh, I can't afford it, because that takes us right out of the scary scenario and puts us back into the phew. I came so close to almost changing my crappy reality, but now I'm right back to where I'm used to, this comfort zone thing. Even if it's a crappy reality, it's comfortable. So you just want to make sure that you always ask this question: if it weren't for the money, would this be something you would want to move forward with? I'm just trying to gain perspective here, right? And then depending on their response, you'll know which direction to take the conversation. So, other objections may show up. So they may be like, oh, well, I'm also kind of right, because they're very honest. It's not like, oh yes, I would love to, if that's not true. They're very honest. And so they may say, well, it's really just not the right time, or I don't think my partner is going to be on board. It is a lot of money. Now that's not a no, that's a consideration, right? So um the most important thing you want to do is just to make sure that you're handling one objection at a time. So I always put the money one aside for last. And so it's like, I don't know if I have the time for that. I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more. Oh, I don't know if my husband would, be on board with that. And, I'll ask some questions about that. Um, if their answer is yes, if it weren't for the money, I would absolutely move forward with you. I freaking love you. Then you can say, okay, so it sounds like you really believe that my XYZ program is a great match for you, and you would love to get XYZ result, but that right now it feels like you can't afford it. Have I got that right? And they agree. Okay, great. So we have an investment problem. Would you agree? Yeah. Okay, great. So are you open to having a conversation for how you might be able to overcome this money problem? You know, and then we could talk about, what do you need to do to sell, to borrow, or to charge so that we can eliminate this problem. So for some people, when you're selling business related stuff, it's like, all right, I want you to go out and set a goal to make X number of thousands of dollars, over the next 7 days. I want to talk to you next week, give a quick strategy. That could be something. Um, but if they have a resistance to discussing where to find the money, then I like to go back to kind of their level of commitment. Like earlier in the conversation, I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to moving XYZ forward? And they're like, oh, I'm a 10. Then I might bring that up in this part of the conversation and be like, do you see how your decision doesn't align with your vision? Your vision is, I'm a 10. I want to do this. This is exactly what I need. And yet your decision is at this lower level of commitment and believing yourself. So what is happening there? So I wanted to share just a quick soapbox about people using credit in order to work with you. Why is it that in every other industry in the freaking world, it is normal for us to borrow money for education and training? And yet, for some reason, in the online space, we've got, Dave Ramsey followers who refuse to use credit ever. And they have the belief if you can't pay for it with cash, then you can't get it. I like that's fine in your regular life, but for business, I completely disagree with that. And I have invested over $100,000 in my business. And I can honestly say about $7,000 of that was cash in my pocket, right? I used credit and I have excellent credit and I just keep paying it back. But I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't acknowledge to myself that I had to invest in business training. And all of you here have invested in business training. So kudos to you. But I really believe that we need to be able to have these open conversations when we're talking to people because I hear that all the time. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, if you think about, oh, you're going to open up a store, but you're only going to buy the goods for the store that you can afford with the cash you have. So you're going to have like this much stuff and you're going to put it in a store. And then you're expecting customers to come in and buy what you have in your store, which is uninspiring because you barely have anything in there. And then you think you're going to make a bunch of money, even though you put in just a little bit of your own effort in regards with money, right? It just doesn't work. And then a year later, you're like, it's still not working. It's still not working. And it's like, at some point, you have to bet on yourself. So these are conversations I'm willing to have with people. To me, using credit simply says, I'm betting on myself. I'm betting on my choice here. I'm choosing to invest in something that I fully believe is going to move me forward. And I know I'm going to pay that back. And, even when it comes to payment plans, I'd rather use credit to pay the coach in full. Usually they have awesome full pay bonuses, but then I get to spread out the payments into a longer payment plan than the coach was willing to do. Because all of us don't want to have people owing us money once the coaching relationship is done. And so I hired a $30,000 coach. Her payment plan was $3,600 a month. I don't even pay that for my house and car combined. And I was like, I don't think I'm your ideal client. Who can afford $3,600 a month at the time? And I still feel that way. That's a lot. And so but the thing is, she wanted me to pay off $30,000 in a single year. Well, that's a big chunk of change to pay off in a single year. And so I went and got a loan that was like, one was 3 years and one was 5 years, and it allowed me to pay $1,000 a month instead of $3,600. I was resourceful because I was ready to work with her. I knew she was going to help me, and I bet on myself, right? Not even on her. I bet on myself. So these are conversations I have. So if you have stories like that, I would, get those down on paper so that you're kind of whittling down the story into kind of a short one, but that you really believe in that, if that's true for you. So end of that soapbox. Another thing before we move on, if they say they can't afford it, just do a self-check here and ask yourself, did you address the incredible value that you offer? Did you spend the time talking about not just the features, but the benefits? What will having all of that do for them? And did you point out the ROI and the importance of investing in themselves and in their dream? And then, I often will offer a payment plan with a deposit to get started. So if they're like, I just need to move some money around, I'm like, okay, great. Let's just do, I do a $500 non-refundable deposit now just to save your spot. And then you've got, 7 days to either get the payment plan going or the full pay going. It's totally up to you. So I just want to try to get that yes, because once they're a yes, they'll find the money. So it's just getting that commitment ahead of time. So one last thing, if you feel like you have addressed that money objection adequately in the conversation, then you might wrap it up with, what do you need to hear for this to be a full body yes? Right? So sometimes they don't know. That's what's interesting. They're like trying to find a reason to say no, but they actually don't know what you could possibly say to make it a yes. Okay, so if they aren't certain that they'll get results, often the objection that comes up is, I'll have to think about it. So that's just letting you know there's some hesitancy here. right? And so usually it means they're not certain they're going to get the results. Like you haven't convinced them of something yet. So I address this objection by saying, is there anything that you're unclear about? Like what more information do you think you need so that you could make a decision today? And oftentimes the response to that question uncovers an objection, a different objection. So again, just handle one objection at a time. Don't get scared off by it. Just have the conversation, right? Once you've addressed all of their concerns and objections, you still have a chance to make the sale. So don't forget about that. And I'm going to go into the next slide of how to do that. But here's what might get uncovered for them. If they don't believe you, you've got a trust issue. You might not have positioned yourself. Maybe you didn't have enough success stories, testimonials, or even just in your own story. So they may not trust you, or they may not trust themselves. Right. And so think about like, I talk to so many women that are like, I keep signing up for programs and I keep telling myself this one's going to be different, but I don't do the work. I never finish the program. And my husband is so sick of me investing all of our money into these things that, I'm never following through on. So that's nothing to do with me, right? They don't trust themselves. And so I need to help them. I need to empower them to understand they're not the same person that they were in these other times that they bought courses. What would make this different? For me, it's because they're working one-on-one with me. I'm like, you think I'm going to let you fall under the radar? No way. Like, yeah, I have an online program that I'm going to ask you to dig into, but like you have access to me and I am not going to let you fall behind. I don't let anyone fall behind. So we can address, those kinds of objections in that way. If you feel like you've addressed their objections well, you can also ask what their pattern is for making decisions. Because some people are more analytical and you need to respect that process. So some people are like, I never say yes on this call. Okay, listen to that. Don't expect them to do something that is not aligned with them, right? It's not always about you and your policies. And so just really ask them like, how do you need to feel really good about making this decision? So not making a decision is making a decision. They're deciding not to choose. And so I would have a conversation around that. Like, does that feel empowering to not actually make a choice? I want you to come to an empowered yes or no, and I'm not attached either way, right? But these are conversations that can go really deep and people really appreciate. Okay. So this is the part of the sales process that most frequently gets skipped, and it's simply asking for the sale again. You've already asked for the sale. You've made your pitch. This is the offer. This is how much it is, right? And then you be quiet. I'm sure you all know that. After you make the offer and talk about money, you be quiet. And then we get into the objections that we just talked about. And now we're at this place where it's like, okay, wow, I feel like we cleared a lot of crap, right? You can simply bring it back to, so are you ready to get started? And I usually ask that in sort of like my cheeky, sassy way, but that's my personality. So you have to find yours, right? But I'm like, I know we just busted through a whole bunch of stuff. And I feel like we're in this really good place where you're finally on your side of wanting this, of like wanting to say yes to this transformation. And I'm like, are you ready to get started? And my favorite are like the squeaky, like, yes. It's like, yes, right? I'm so excited. And it's not like, yes, I closed her. That's not my energy at all. My energy is like, yes, I helped this person firmly believe in herself. And I'm so excited to get started. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen share in just a minute. I wanted to let you know if you do want a free gift of mine, I do not offer this on my website, but it is like if I'm a guest presenter. I have a 6 steps to yes video training on how to navigate the sales conversation. So if you would like that, of course, it's just 6 steps to the conversation and huge template full of different question options that you have for each of the 6 stages that walks you through that. It's an hour-long training. So if you want that, oh, funny. I thought I put it on here. You would just go to coachkatiecollins.com/, giveaway, all one word, no hyphen, and that'll get you to this page. And then if you'd like to kind of stay connected to me and the agency that I run, our agency is called the Launch Squad. And we have a podcast called Lighten Your Launch. And so we're always talking about like all things related to launching online business and energy work, because we believe that it's not always about strategy, but also about your energy to get there. So final words, you've got this. You've got to think positive. That's like the number one thing about sales, is to believe that all of this is possible. And know that you can create the impact and the income that you desire, and you can have the awesome paydays that you want. So let me get out of here so I can see you. And
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Can you, do you want to stop sharing your screen? And then you
Oh, I thought I did.
We could
Sorry.
do a little chat. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, you don't want to read my email?
Hey, it's all good. You can. I know that everybody else is probably like, I don't want to read my own.
Seriously.
So I dropped into the comments the link for your giveaway as well as the link for your podcast. First of all, I want to say thank you so much. I felt like I was over here taking copious notes and thinking about how even in my own sales process, I'm like, oh, I'm not using that tactic. Like, what a curious way to get at what I really want. So
Yeah,
that was great. So I want to open it up for those of you who are here. We've had a couple folks who needed to go and they sent me messages that they were dropping off, but for Aaron and Christy and Crystal and Melissa, I'm just curious, like, how did this resonate with you today? Or do you have any questions for Katie? Just unmute yourselves. You don't have to raise your hands. Nobody has anything to say? Y'all killing me. You spend all day at home, quarantined from COVID, and then we get together and y'all don't have anything to say? Nothing. Crystal, come on, girl. What you got? Yes.
It really resonated with me. I am like knee deep in all this process, and I actually have two businesses that I'm growing. One is more online blog, and the other one is actually service based. I started my own firm, and so I'm working on growing clients and getting more clients. And I recently decided to do a direct sales approach because for a few different reasons. But I was kind of like, okay, I get referrals. Referrals are no problem. Like, they're already warm. They already heard about me from someone else. They want to work with me, and it's not an issue. But if I do cold sales, I was just like, how does that go? So this has really helped me. Like, I have a whole page full of notes to just have the confidence. And in the beginning, when you said that the first close, you have to close yourself. So like, what's holding me back? What's my fear? I was like, oh. I was like, I have to do some journaling on that. So this is definitely very, very helpful. And I'm going to use all my notes and points when I start making calls.
Thanks,
awesome.
Kristen.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really great point, which is around, like, often when I'm working with clients, we end up recognizing that they've been selling whatever they're selling for too low. And so we go through a process of essentially repricing everything that they're selling inside of their business. And sometimes there's a fear around that, like, wow, what does that mean? Like, am I worth that much, or is this product or whatever worth that much? And I've been through that too. I mean, I tell the story sometimes in the group, but like, when I started doing one-on-one coaching, when I started Hatch Tribe about 6 years ago, I think I charged $750 to get together, like, for a month. And it was like 4 visits in a row. And I very quickly realized I wasn't getting my clients results, and I was selling it for too low. And like, the whole thing didn't work, and it had to be reworked and repackaged and redone. And now, like, I work with clients for 5 months and it's $10,000. And I love the arrangement. It works really well for me. I know my clients get results, but it's like, you have to figure it out over time. But I will tell you, in getting from 750 to 10 grand, like, that was a big change. And there were lots of points between there, but the last one was going from 5 to 10. And that one for me raised a flag of like, wow, like, am I really that good? Like, do I trust myself enough that I know that at 10 grand, I'm really going to get my clients the results that I believe I can? And the answer is emphatically yes, but it did take some mental work to get to that point.
Yeah. You know, when I started, I was selling business coaching for $3,500 for a 6-month program. And I hired a coach because I was barely making any money. And he was like, oh no, you got to up that to $5,000. And I'm like, how could I do that if no one bought it for 3,500? And he's like, it's because it's too cheap and they don't trust you.
Yeah.
And, and I remember even like I had a sales call coming up, and then in the next breath, I'm like, well, she'll never pay 5,000 because she's a teacher. And I know that she's just as broke as I was. And he was like, never, ever make assumptions about anyone's money story. You do not know. It is not your business to pretend to know. So it was like 2 shifts in that one call. I made my first $5,000 sale. I made my first $10,000 month that month. Like that was huge for me. Yeah. So we have all these stupid stories in our heads that like don't serve us. They're not even true.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that you jump from 5 to 10. That's awesome.
Thanks. It felt good. I mean, I mean, every time we go through growth in our business, it raises flags, and they're fear flags often, and
yeah,
we have to work through them. I wanted to share this because Melissa says I'm in the hair chair. So she's off getting her hair done, but she said, this was really great. And honestly, the point that Katie made about investing in yourself and the inventory in your store and saying yes to yourself resonates on multiple levels, not just sales, but even in the hiring that I'm doing. And Melissa's part of my CEO group, and we just met this morning, and she was having a conversation about needing to hire some key players in her team. And I think that that's another one of those areas where it's like, we really have to think about, there's this internal buy-in that we have to have before we show up externally with clients, or in this case, like even just the confidence to say, yeah, I need to put some butts in seats to really do what I need to do in this business.
Yeah. Yeah. In the hiring thing, I totally get it. Like I resisted getting a VA for a long time. I didn't think I could afford it. Right. We're like a bookkeeper. I was like, hello, I immediately need a bookkeeper. Somebody help me with my taxes. Right. So it's like what we prioritize. But because I've done sales for other people, and if you're familiar with the live launch method, it's exhausting. And I just did a sales cycle for somebody. She changed her offer by $5,000. Like it went from like 11 to 16.5. And I don't know that her people were ready for that. So we didn't do great in sales. And because it was commission only, I made nothing. Ugh. And I worked for her company for 55 hours of my time in supporting and doing the DMs and all of that. And I was like, you know what? I will never do that model again. And I will never ask anyone to work for my company on commission only. Yeah. I just think like, if you're expecting people to send DMs and keep doing outreach and showing up and doing lives in your group and being a part of your team, pay them for their expertise. So I'm really getting like that alignment, right? Like even we were bringing a VA into our agency, and like some of my partners were like, maybe we'll offer her 20 instead of 25. And at first I'm like, yeah, let's see what she says. And then the next meeting, I'm like, no, I'm not aligned with that. I can't preach, like ask for what you're worth, but in my business, I'm going to pay you less. And I've worked for so many businesses that did that to me that I'm very firm about that, and yeah. So anyway, it is all a mindset thing, and that energetic generosity goes a long way. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Christy or Erin, do either of you have something you want to weigh in on? Erin.
Just that, thank you. And I really felt when you said stop making them feel better. I know I have done that on multiple calls. Some of them worked out. People thought, well, if she's giving this to me for free, I'll go ahead and buy. But others now looking back going, well, I probably gave them too much, and they thought, oh, I can do it myself.
Yep. And there's a finesse on my template. If you end up getting that free gift, I do make recommendations on my calls. I do want them to get value from it, but there's just this finesse around telling them what they need, but not giving them the how in any way. And so sometimes we think, I've got to give them a free resource. Well, I'll give them a template for my paid program. No. Right? It's like, you need to discover a niche and you need to narrow down your messaging with market research. I'm not telling them how to do the market research, and I'm not giving them a template to do it by themselves. I want them to have that like, I need this and I don't know how. That's the finesse of serving without giving away the farm.
Yeah. Then I'll echo that even in the marketing sentiment. So the way Brandon Lucero, my mentor, teaches it is like, we want to be teaching not the how to do content, but really the what to do. So you'll see a video that comes out probably today that's going to say it's like 4 ways to grow your email list fast in 2021. I'm teaching you the what, but I'm not teaching you how. And it's
Yeah.
agitating enough of the issue to get them to take action, because the action I want them to take is to sign up for Capture and Convert, where I'll actually teach you how to do it, but you're
Yeah.
getting the what in the video. And so you can use that strategy in sales and marketing. So that is spot on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christy, you got something?
Yes. Thank you so much. I took 3 pages of notes and I'm
Woohoo!
letting it all like soak in.
Every teacher loves to hear that.
Yeah. I have a pencil and I was like, why didn't I get a pen? Because I really don't like writing with a pencil, but I wrote it all down. I have an online art gallery. So I think that all of these things I can use in selling the artwork. I feel like I'm not quite to the point yet where I've been trying to like convince people to buy the product. And art is something where it's like a luxury good, where if someone's like, oh, I have to go talk to my decorator, it's hard for me to be like, well, before you leave, like, why do you have to talk to them? Why can't you just make the decision on your own? So I'm thinking about how I can kind of use your advice to sell the product rather than a service, but also maybe I should think of a service that I can offer, because I have a master's degree in contemporary art. And I think that people see the artwork on my website and they think like, you know, yes or no, but it doesn't really have anything to do with me besides the fact that I chose it, but they might not know my background. And so you saying to like sell yourself and your expertise kind of made me think, how can I do that for myself?
Right. Like, I think when people are inspired by your story, right? When they fall in love with the artist, they fall in love with the art.
Right.
And so for you, it's the positioning, but it's also like bringing your heart into it. Like, this is the emotion that I was feeling when I created this, or this was the transformation that happened. You know, I had to put the, you know, I almost said marker down, but I'm sure you're doing art not with markers.
I'm actually not doing any art. I only sell it, which is
oh, got it.
I think
Okay,
it's another
so you're doing
layer.
So you're doing it from other artists.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm the art
cool.
curator.
Okay. Okay. Even better, because now you can bring in their story and how you related to them and what like turned you so on. But it's all about storytelling with some emotion that's going to go, oh, I love that. My sister bought me this piece. I was way into bicycling for a while, and she bought me this piece. It was just on pencil. And there's, you know, the bike rider, and then this like heartbeat looking zigzag, and then a guardian angel behind me on the bike. But like the story of the art and the picture of it, like made her buy that for me for Christmas and tell me the whole story. That's what people buy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Storytelling.
It's the narrative for sure.
By the way, Christy, are you following the whole NFTs thing right now?
Yeah, I am. I was actually on a podcast. My friend is a YouTuber, and so he like did this whole podcast, sorry, not a podcast, a YouTube video about it. And he interviewed me about real art versus NFTs. So it is crazy.
I know.
I kind of want to like buy some of them and see what happens.
If you're like, what are y'all talking about? It's called non-fungible tokens. And it's basically digital art that now there's a real marketplace for, and it's like completely transforming what artists are able to do and to accomplish in the world. So it's being traded primarily using blockchain. So like Ethereum is the coin that's being used to trade it. It's fascinating. So
wow,
we'll see some things emerge in the business world on that front, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, we've derailed slightly, but thank you. Okay, so any last questions for Katie before we leave today? Okay, Katie, so aside from like the free giveaway that you've of course offered, and then your launch company, just talk to us for just a minute. So if somebody's like, dude, I might need a little help with like a sales strategy, do you do that work like one-on-one too?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know it's like, I'm like, I have an agency, but I work for myself, but I do sales for others. But it's always moving and changing. So I do work with people one-to-one, usually in a 6-month capacity. And, you know, in the slide that I was showing you, that was actually from my sales page for my program, which was called Craft a 5K Offer That Sells. So people come in and I'm like, okay, I've got this program. Let's not waste coaching time on teaching. You can go in and do this program, but it's taking people through the market research to find out, what do your people want to buy? Stop creating programs without asking anybody any questions, because that's why it's not selling.
Yeah.
Right. And then wrapping up your offer, which is not, I coach for 6 months for $5,000. That's just a piece of your offer, but how to develop a whole offer that people are excited, and then how to launch it. So the launch
Perfect.
squad helps you actually launch it. Like, we do your pages, we launch with you 3 times, we do all your tracking for you and all of that. But in my own company, you know, if you're just like, I just need to like get the basics down and figure out who I am, who am I talking to, what do they want, and how can I make money like right now? I specialize in helping you sell one-to-one to make sure that you're making income as you're building your business, instead of thinking that you've got to wait a year before you can launch a group program. Right.
Beautiful.
That takes a little bit longer. So I'm a big fan of, let's get you one-on-one, let's get you some cash in your pocket.
Yeah.
And then you get to do market research anyway with the people that hire you. Right. So yeah.
Good. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like, sell it before you create it, no matter what it is, because if you don't have
No
a
matter
buyer, there's no point in creating it. So
Yep. Same thing with books. People keep coming to me saying, yeah, I've got a book, and, you know, I need a platform. And I'm like, oh, you need an audience before you should write the
First.
book. Yeah.
learn that
So,
lesson the hard way.
audience building is so important, and it's something that I blew off because I never wanted to be like Message to the Millions. I didn't care. I like my boutique business, 12 clients a year. It's easy, right? Like, I wanted it to be that way. But anyway, I regretted, you know, 5 years into my business, my list size was like 300. I was like, I think I better grow this.
Time to grow it. Yeah, good. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. And of course, the replay will be posted. It'll be posted by tomorrow inside the Facebook group and inside your member site in the CEO Collective. And if you have any questions, let us know. And Katie is in the Facebook group now. So if you have any questions that you just think about in watching this, or thinking about, you know, how you're going to implement this in your business, by all means, tag her there. And we can, you know, keep the conversation going. So,
yes. Well, thank you so much, Hilary. I really appreciate being here with your ladies. This was so fun. So yeah, anytime you need anything, let me know.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.